from time to time, I find myself meeting a jiu-jitsu person, someone that maybe listens to the show or someone that's perhaps seen some of our stuff on social media. And I find myself sadly coming to learn from this individual that they have a partner, a boyfriend or a girlfriend who doesn't think that their cauliflower ears are attractive. And so this podcast is a message to that person to let them know that we actually think you are more attractive because of your cauliflower ears. And let it be known that if you don't have cauliflower ears, that your potential to be even more beautiful than you already are is awaiting you on the horizon. Enjoy the episode. Hey, so it's come to my attention somewhat recently that there are brethren of ours within this jiu-jitsu community who in fact believe that cauliflower ears are not attractive.
But boo earns. What are you thinking? Cauliflower ears are I love them.
I'm all in. I mean,
all in. Once you got them, what are you gonna do?
I mean, I got to say, I probably dug them before I had them.
You admire them.
Yeah, that's right. It's not like the ear itself. If you were to take that ear off and put it in a frame on the wall, you're like, that's a perfect ear. It's just like, but it's like, there's something admirable about them.
You got to know the pain. If you have even had the small amount of cauli, it hurts. Like you can't even lie on that. Like when you first get them, you're like, I can't even.
Yeah, it's very sensitive.
It's so sensitive. And so to work through that, to stick a freaking needle in your ear, pull the blood out, and persist through that nonsense, you're a determined person. Whatever you might say, people who build cauliflower ears over time, that's a hard-headed person.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that they have. I do think now that because I got my first one 3 months in, right?
Right.
And then my other one came up, I don't know, probably over the next 7 years. Yeah. And then now they haven't changed for like...
They kind of lock in.
Like 7 years.
They get fixed, yeah.
Yeah, and so I feel like what they indicate to someone is actually much greater than what it actually took me to get them. Like there was very little toughness for me to get that first one. I just drilled this takedown incorrectly for like a couple of weeks and then boof.
Yeah.
And then, I go to a bar and the bouncer's like, whoa, cauliflower ears, bro. What kind of fighting you do? I'm like, I've done like 5 jiu-jitsu classes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And look, I got mine from my first really bad cauliflower was from ripping my head out of triangles. I was getting triangled a ton because I was just like leaving my head and arm in.
Yeah.
And instead of learning like a proper defense or changing my game, I just kept ripping my head out, kept breaking my ear down,
Yeah.
But so at that time, I was living in St Kilda, and at that time, St Kilda's cleaned up a little bit, a lot of junkies. So when I went to the chemist, I'm like, I'd like a 1 mil diabetic needle. They're like, show us your diabetics card. I'm like, look at my ear, dude. Like, I'm not a junkie. I'm trying to pull blood out my ear. And the guy was like, oh, yeah. All right.
They're like, whoa, this guy's a gladiator. Shit, give him the needles, man.
No, but they were very grudging. And I was like, look, there's no track
It's so sus going into a chemist and asking for needles.
Yeah. Right? But the crazy thing was, we've talked about this before. I struggled to get help. I went to the doctor. Doctor's like, no, you're going to have to go to the emergency. Like, what the no. And here's the crazy thing. This is how I knew I loved cauliflower ears. Someone on Instagram posted a 3x3 square of like A, B, C, D cauliflower ears. It said, name these tag below who owns these cauliflowers. I could name 6 of the 9.
Really?
Bruh.
Wow.
I was like, Randy Couture, BJ Penn. Like I could just, I could just pick them. And I was like, wow. I was like, Valish Ishmael. I was like, Valish. It was crazy to me that I actually knew because I saw these people who are amazing at MMA or jiu-jitsu and I looked at their ears and I'm like, whoa, that's f***ed up. But maybe there's a correlation with if your ears are more f***ed up, are you also really good at the thing?
Yeah.
And look, there's some people out there who don't have them.
Some people don't get them, right?
Speak to me about these pussies.
Well, yeah, I feel like some people get really hard done by in this jiu-jitsu journey. Adam Childs, My
Beautiful.
coach, our friend.
Soft.
His ears are just ears.
Normal.
They're just for listening.
You could not know.
Nah, he can put earphones in them and shit, no problem.
Yeah.
He could put a suit on and you'd think he was an accountant.
There you go.
You know?
Hodger Gracie.
Hodger Grace doesn't have them?
Not really.
Yeah, actually, come
Very
to think of it, a lot
minimally.
of those, and a lot of the Gracies, like, did Hoist, did they?
Yeah, for sure. I think from MMA.
Yeah.
More from
Hickson
more
had.
from direct striking, wrestling, more than the jiu-jitsu path. Like, even have a look at Braulio Estima. That guy, ADCC champion.
Shanji doesn't
gi
have a lot of
champion.
cauliflower either, does he?
No, it's
Yeah.
it's interesting. Pussy, weak. Probably not
you
actually
said
that
it,
good at
not-
jiu-jitsu.
You know, obviously avoiding the grind.
Clearly.
It is fascinating, right? That for some people, they just don't get them. And I feel like that's what, like, we have it with hands at the
Sure.
gym when new people come to the gym and they always complain their hands hurt.
Yeah.
Because the skin is weak, right?
Of course.
And then over time, they develop some calluses and then they don't complain anymore.
Of course.
And I think that's the same thing with ears. I'm like, you know, it flared up over the first initial years of my jiu-jitsu and then stopped.
Yeah.
And it's like the ears just toughen up and get used to a bit of trauma.
And I think as you get better at jiu-jitsu, you do less inefficient, grindy things.
Yeah.
Which means you're probably not putting your head in a bad spot. You got better awareness. You don't brute things as much, and therefore it unpeels. But then we have people who just go harder and harder. You know, whether it's jiu-jitsu, like the Meow Brothers. Those guys love
those
to
guys
destroy
are just
themselves.
like the embodiment of physical trauma.
Broken
not
down.
like, I'm not talking about, you know, like
Childhood trauma.
emotional, stuff in there. I'm just talking about bodies that have just been through the ringer and are just carrying scars. And they obviously love it
Yes.
because they seem to do nothing about, like they just,
No.
I don't know if there's even a word for rehab in their vocabulary.
No.
But like they're just so riddled with it's really, I mean, I find it so fascinating to look at them, eh? Like you look at photos of them, you see him moving, you're like, oh man, look at his knee. Look how his foot turns out, you know? Look
Weird
at like
angles.
when they put pictures of their fingers.
Yeah.
All f***ed up.
Brutal. And I think
Super fascinating. I
There
love
is
it.
a cost to all these things. But back in the days, I would say probably late 20s, early 30s, I was single-ish, you know, kind of hadn't quite found the right girl. I would get really weird, like, you know, because the person sitting across from me doesn't know anything about jiu-jitsu, MMA, and they're just like, I felt I was like being in a position of being a woman who might have certain physical endowments where guys don't pay attention to your face. They're looking down or they're, you know, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this one girl, she couldn't stop looking at my ears. And I said, oh, my cauliflowers, this is, you know, because it was getting in the way of conversation. And she said, is it a birth defect? And I was like, no, these aren't, no, not at all. I explained to her.
I got a bunch of those, but that's not
No,
it.
this is not it. It's not an extra chromosome. No, I was trying to explain to her how I did it. And she's like, why didn't you just stop? And I was like, conversation over. Goodbye.
Because I look like a f***ing sick.
Pick up the bill. Bitch. No, it was one of those things that it actually made me feel very self-conscious for a while. But when I went to Brazil, way more guys had cauliflower ears. Not just from jiu-jitsu, but from boxing, from all kinds
really?
of things. Yeah. And I was like, oh, it's more common here culturally. And it was far more accepted. And I think as MMA's become more popular and jiu-jitsu's become more popular, I had a barber be like, oh, you fight, bro? Like he was giving me mad respect.
Barbers are pretty onto it.
Because he was just, you know, sometimes they like pull your ear to
Yeah.
the side. He's like, that's not too rough on your ears, is it, brother? And I'm like, mate, go hard. Like,
Yeah.
I feel nothing.
You could hang off my ear, no problem.
It's a rock hold. You just fucking...
We know you struggle in the gym. Most people do. JT and I both train in gyms, and those places are full of people who don't know what to do with all the stuff. So JT and I built an app. It's called Bulletproof for BJJ, and it is exactly the app for you. It's going to teach you how to get strong and how to get flexible, specifically for jiu-jitsu, and it's going to require that you go to the gym like a couple days a week. So it's not going to take much time out of your schedule, but in exchange, you're going to get stronger, better performance, less injuries, and you're going to look better. So all you need to do to start your 2-week free trial right now is go to the App Store, search Bulletproof for BJJ, download the app, and connect with JT and I so that we can help make you bulletproof for BJJ. I mean, you're obviously not dating private school girls because I feel like that's the only cultural clique where cauliflower, because rugby boys.
Sure.
Yeah, so if you come from that Ivy League kind of like, you know, Joey's boys or like, yeah, private schools.
Potentially.
And that's usually people's first thing is like, oh, you play rugby?
Yes.
I'm like, nah, bro, I was always too small for that, you know?
Yeah, and look, I have some favorite cauliflower ears.
Who you got?
Randy Couture,
Yep.
right up there.
Yep. I can't picture them, but I know
No.
I've always thought Randy a very handsome man, and the
He
ears
is
were part of that.
brutally handsome. BJ Penn. These are some pretty swollen ears, by the way. These are cauliflower ears at the extreme.
BJ Penn had that heavy top,
very swollen at the top,
Yeah.
like a ball,
Yeah.
almost like a golf ball. I say I love them not because I would want that cauliflower ear, just because it is the extreme end of it. Epitomizes like crazy, intense dedication to the art.
Yep.
Shinya Aoki,
Ah, yeah.
Bro,
Did he have a
shit.
real spiky one?
he kind of like juts out a bit. Like
Yeah, okay.
I remember seeing it being like, ooh, it's rough.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite collies?
Oh, like I kind of do, but it's been a while. I always liked Joe Lauzon.
Yeah.
I always liked his head and his ears. And he always had that kind of buzz cut like me at the moment. And his ears were just like big wing
pop
nuts.
out,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's kind of like a thin sort of guy.
Yeah.
I always dug his. None other really come to mind, but you know who I've been thinking about recently? So it's funny with jiu-jitsu, and I think this is how you often tell jiu-jitsu cats, is because if they're fortunate, lucky, blessed enough to have cauliflower ears, is that they usually have a very intact face.
Yeah.
And so you'll see like an accountant face
And then
and then
rough
wing
ears.
nuts, right? And you're like, oh, pro jiu-jitsu. Whereas when you see someone that has done like wrestling or rugby, they usually have like cauliflower face as well.
True.
They have, sometimes,
brow.
the brow comes over. Sometimes the nose will have been broken. Like
Yeah.
that's a classic rugby look, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'll see like sort of more protrusions at the cheekbones and the chin, and then the ears, and you're like, oh, okay, so yeah, probably not jiu-jitsu. It makes me think of that young kid. Is it Dorian Olivares?
Yes, sir.
Who's like,
Kasai champ.
yeah, he's like top 10 on flow for wrestling and jiu-jitsu, right?
Yes.
And he's young.
And he just not that long ago beat Luke Griffiths.
Yeah, Luke
That
Griffith
was wild.
He was like 66. Griffith's like 100 plus.
120.
Griffith had his back,
Had his back.
and then he just gets out and then took Griffith's back.
back.
He's just tenacious as
Wild match.
and he's got that cauliflower head where you're like, that is a head that has been through wars like a wrestler. I'm guessing most of that's from his wrestling career. But dude's not even, I don't even know if he's 20. Like he's
He looks
young as
young but old.
Yeah.
Worn.
and so like,
Full respect.
oh yeah, like I love that. I think it's so fascinating, right? Like I was saying about looking at the Meow Brothers. I remember it's like tattoos were when we were young, where when you saw, like when I was in my 20s, I remember I was working in the film industry back then. I remember seeing guys on set, some guys who had tattoos, and it would usually
Tough.
It meant something. It's like,
Yeah. Pain.
well, yeah, because has that guy done time, or was he some kind, like what was his deal, right? And tattoos actually told a story. They weren't just an aesthetic piece.
That's right.
Now, tattoo means nothing.
Yeah.
Every got him, it's a
tattoos.
fashion
Yeah,
accessory, right?
True.
But so I feel like the cauliflower ears and the cauli face and all that, it tells a story about someone, and I find that very fascinating.
Yeah, definitely.
me.
And I think that we see this across all martial arts. Like I knew a security guard at the Rialto who was a kung fu guy, and his knuckles were crazy hardened. Like they were so swollen and like, I mean, he couldn't actually open his hand fully.
Because the knuckle would prohibit.
Yeah, but he was breaking bricks. He was like hand conditioning, right?
Yeah.
Because he was like, if it ever comes to a fight, my hand is not going to break.
Yeah.
Like he's calcified those joints.
Fucking dim Mac time.
Yeah, dude. Because I shook his hand a couple of times and I noticed that his grip wasn't really strong, but he never fully like gripped. And it was just because he said, "Oh, my fingers hurt a lot." And I said, "Oh, what's that from?" He's like, "From beating." Like he's like, "I used to work on the wooden dummy for Wing Chun. He done Wing Chun. He done all kinds of styles of kung fu, and he used to punch and they used to have rope the rope was there to soften punching the timber for the wooden dummy.
Oh, right.
You're
the
like-
rope wrapped around the
yeah, you're like, that's the soft
that's the
part.
the relieving part.
What the fuck? And I think that this idea of physical conditioning, we like to remove it, but actually there's huge value in it. Like, don't get me wrong, I say my cauliflower ears come from a degree of ignorance. Like, it's kind of me, a very dumb phase in blue belt, really, when it really popped off, both ears. But now I learned from it what I like about cauliflower ears, at least my own, is the softest part of another person's body, which is their ears, is actually one of the hardest parts of my body.
Oh.
And I can gouge your eye out with my ear. My ear's a weapon. So I get you inside control.
It's like a little spoon.
It's a little, gouge your eye out with a
flesh
spoon.
spoon.
Yeah, and I mean, what's crazy is oftentimes people want to touch your ear. It's kind of funny. I've had guys be like, can I touch your ear, bro? Because they want to know, is it soft or is it cushy? Because when you first get them, they're kind of like, they're just these balloons of blood until it calcifies.
Yeah.
And then it's a rock. And it's like, oh God, like people go, oh my God, it's so hard. Like, yeah, because I'm a warrior. No, it's a funny thing.
Yeah, so, I guess the takeaway from this is if you know someone, maybe it's a significant other, or maybe it's just one of your mates that you catch up to play pickleball with on the weekends.
As you do.
And they don't think that you are beautiful because of your cauliflower ears. You need to that person off out of your life and find somebody who loves you for your cauliflower ears.
Appreciates you for who you are. There it is.
See you on the next one.
Shoo.